Okay, we're going to have a look at some fly reels. I've got 3 reels in front of me here today and a spare spool. On a typical fly reel you have 3 sections of line. The first section is called the backing, and it's the section that is a very fine diameter. It is the longest length on the reel. It's attached to the reel itself, and the reason it's there is if you hook a large fish which runs more than the 100 feet of fly line you've got on here, you've still got that extra length to play a large fish. So the final section of line that's joined to the fly line is the leader. When we get further into the course, we will be looking in depth at things like backing, fly line and leaders, but for now let's have a look at this reel here. What I've got here is a reel it's got stamped on it 5/6, so it's designed for a 5 or 6 weight line. It's designed for smaller freshwater species. It's quite a small spool. You haven't got a lot of line capacity on there for big fish that might run a long way. It has actually got quite a good drag on it, but you're unlikely to use that drag very much for the species you'll be chasing with a reel like this. Most of the fish you'll be chasing with a smaller reel in freshwater like this aren't going to run very far. They may not even get you into the backing, but if they do, you have got quite a good drag on there, and it will help you control the fish and slow them down. The next reel we'll have a look at here is a 7/8 reel, so it's designed to carry a 7 weight or 8 weight line. It's quite a step up from the smaller trout reel we've just had a look at, and the main things about this reel are it's got a much larger capacity to store line and backing for fish that might run a long way, like a bonefish for instance might run a couple of 100 meters. So you've got that storage capacity on here. Because of the larger diameter on the reel, it's much easier to retrieve the line once the fish has stopped running. You've got a quality drag on the back here to slow the fish down and help control those bigger fish that are likely to run further. And these reels are anodized, so they're much less likely to have corrosion problems or rust problems. With modern technology these days, they are very corrosion resistant. The next reel up is a 9/10, and again it's quite a big step up from the reel we've just had a look at, which was a 7/8. The big thing with the 9/10, it has got much more capacity. You can put 250 meters of backing on there or more, as well as your fly line. It's designed for salt water, so it's anodized. It's got a very good drag which has increments on the back, so you've got a pretty good idea of how much drag you've got on that reel, and you can actually get it to the point where it almost locks up, so you can put a lot of drag on this particular reel. And the knob on the reel is quite a bit larger, which makes it easier to retrieve line if you're hooking big fish that run a long way and you need to get that line back quickly. The other thing to consider if you're buying a saltwater fly reel is the fact that you want to buy a reel that's got a large arbor. The arbor is the diameter of this inside section on the fly reel. It's the thing that the backing and the fly line are wound onto. If you have a reel with a very small arbor and you hook a big fish that runs 200 or 300 meters of backing off, you do not want a small arbor reel. You'll be there all day trying to wind your backing and your line back onto the reel. A large arbor is much more efficient at doing that. You will retrieve and pick up your line much more quickly, and that's really what you want on a saltwater fly reel. The other issue you can have with a small arbor reel is if the fly line's been wound on tightly, sometimes it can come off in coils, and that can cause tangles, which is something you really want to avoid. Your better quality reels have an easy quick change system on them. And what I usually do when I buy a new reel, I always get a spare spool with them as well. And what you can do then is, you've got the same reel, you don't have to buy two separate reels. You have one spool possibly with a sinking line on it, like I've got here, and another one with a floating line. So it's very easy. You can have the spare spool in your kit, or in the boat, or in your rucksack. They usually come with a neoprene bag like that. You can store them in there and easily swap over whenever you need to. So it's an easy changeover. It's just a matter of tightening that center knob up. And the other thing is too, most quality reels again come with a very easy changeover from left to right hand. Now quite often a lot of people seem to think you need to wind with your left hand, but my advice to you is wind with your dominant hand. So if you are a dominant right-hander, for instance, have your reel set up to wind with your right hand. Because again, if you're fishing in the salt water, you're going to be doing a lot of winding if you hook some large fish. Buy the best quality reel you can afford. You've still got to look after it. If you use it in salt water especially, make sure you give it a good wash in fresh water at the end of the day, and make sure you back the drag off, back to zero once you've washed it in the fresh water. Because what that does, if you don't back it off, the drag washers can compress and you won't get the same life out of your reel as you will if you back that drag off. And if you do those very simple things, most of the reels that are made these days should last you for many, many years.